you guys. Okay. I went, I'm in the counseling business because I care a lot and I come from a big family of therapists. So I have two sisters who are in the field. I have three nieces, three nephews. My daughter's a licensed therapist. And of course, when we're all Italian, so when you're at the dinner table, I know nothing. See, because I got a whole family of therapists there. But we love the field and we like helping people. So I'm not in it to make money. I'm in this field to help people and then make money. Okay. If money's your priority, this is not the business I will tell you to go into. But you will make money if you do the right job for people. And I went through loss of my son, Michael. My son, Michael, was 17 years old and he was killed by a tractor trailer. And that really set me down and depressed for many, many years. We're not going to go into that deeply because we're not here for that. But I have to say, I said when Michael life was taken, I said he took my life. Now I say he gave me life with the work and how I got blessed to be here. And if you saw me somewhere or speaking somewhere, you would never know I went through a tragedy like that. If you would have saw me 10 years after that, you would have known I did. But the key thing is I'm here to help others. And that's what I'm in the counseling field for. And after losing Michael, no longer do I see anyone as, hey, a stepping stone or networking. I'm not even here to network. I'm here because Juliet thought it'd be nice for us to hear and give you guys some ideas maybe to help your pathway. Maybe our words could help you. So I just believe we're here to help, and that's it. And as a speaker, I've spoken all over the country to groups of thousands of people, whatever. I have to be led to do that on radio. I'm on radio. I mean, a bunch of stuff. You guys can look me up. But we're not here about me. I'm here about me to help you guys. And that's what I want. And any questions you have, please send the questions over instead of us just talking. So if you have any key questions, we're happy to answer them for you. So, and I'm owner of the practice. I'm the sole owner of Family and Personal Counseling, and it's considered probably one of the largest groups in the country that's private practice.
Could you explain the acronyms behind your name? Because I know some people ask questions, what is MS? What is ASAC, CCH?
Yeah, the Master of Science, then it's LMHC is the licensed mental health counselor. And by the way, becoming a licensed mental health counselor on your way to getting that degree, the first 48 credits of that degree, you can become a guidance counselor if you want to be. And then the next 12 credits move you to 60 to get the mental health degree. And then, of course, you have to do all the internship hours and everything else and get licensed by the state. ASAC is alcohol substance abuse counselor. So that has to do with addiction. And CCH is a certified clinical hypnotherapist. So I'm also, I like doing the hypnotherapy. I don't want to go against my organization that does hypnotherapy, but I like to consider it as relaxation. I like to relax someone's mind all the way, come down, and allow them to do the process and do the work. To get to the unconscious or the subconscious, whatever you guys want to call it, but to get in there is the key. And if you have someone doing hypnosis while you're doing your counseling, it's going to benefit you and leap you forward so far because we got to get to the subconscious where everything is sitting. And that's the stuff we want to get out. The consciousness you know already, we want to get to the stuff that you don't know that's troubling you. Does that answer that, Juliet?
Yes.
Okay, what else would you guys
If someone wants to just explain the essence of mental health counselor, LMHC, that would be great to kind of give like a big picture view.
Okay. Connor, you want to give him what it is?
It's because I also saw some questions in the chat about, like what's the difference between social work and mental health counseling. Social work is exactly what it sounds like. You're working socially to build social supports for people. The mental health counseling is the other side of it, where you're actually doing the counseling for the mental health that's being presented to you. And I really think that being a mental health counselor is really, I don't know, it's rewarding, that's for sure. But even to be a mental health counselor, like it says here, you have to be able to communicate. You need to be a patient listener, that's for sure. But you also have to help people, how was I going to say that? I guess know how to put their words together, like help them identify what is going on with them, because sometimes those words can't be, comprehended, or, like when we're talking about working with kids, the label, the feeling expression and the emotional labeling and everything is very important. But yeah, were you about to say something too, Ron? It looks like you were
Yeah,
about to
I was going to say, we also had a question. Someone asked earlier about LCSW
Yes.
versus, I guess, LMHC. Well, I have LCSWs in my family, and they're called LCSWRs, believe it or not, and that's a licensed clinical social worker. So it's two different programs completely. One is
Yeah.
compacted, concentrated with all mental health, all mental health counseling, and the clinical social worker, just like you see in your schools, right? You need the social worker
Yeah.
to help people with public assistance and
Right.
many other things. So I never like to make anyone feel worse or better.
Yeah.
I like the LMHC. If you're going to go into mental health counseling and you want to do one-on-one counseling, we could call it psychotherapy, whatever you want to call it. But if you want to do that, that's what I think. Social work, I can't sit down with my sisters and talk about social work, to the degree that they can.
Yeah.
But they went after the schooling and went to a lot of seminars and other classes, got certificates to learn more clinical. And I know Adelphi for social work has more clinical than, say, Stony Brook. I know whatever I know, a little bit I know. So that's the difference. But I'm all licensed mental health. I like it. And we have people who are marriage and family therapists. And to give you guys one last idea about this, very important to know, get your foundation. So licensed clinical art therapists, we actually have them working for us. And I love the licensed clinical art. But when insurance comes into play, or when you're in the business, the field, licensed mental health and licensed clinical social worker is insurance companies, they honor it. They look at it as the top level. I know it's sad to say that because the clinical art therapists to me are dear to my heart. They're phenomenal. But if you would have got the licensed mental health counseling and then you took side seminars and got certificates in art therapy and, or forensic or whatever you're going to do, that licensed mental health counselor will take you the rest of your life anywhere you go. That's honored to the state. So just giving you guys some ideas. Okay. Any other?
Well, yeah, I was even going to say too, the one thing that I've heard the major difference between the social work, like for grad school for social work and then for mental health counseling, is that mental health counseling, that's more clinical based, like as kind of Ron had said, and then social work, that's more so, I can't really speak to it, I didn't do it. But what I have heard even from those who have pursued social work is that they do see that the mental health counseling programs are more clinical
Yes.
based.
And
Yeah.
it's just like I was saying to Juliet one day, just like, PhD. We want a PhD. Right. We want to get this. So for myself, just as for me, instead of spending the year and a half, 2 years on that, I want to be more diversified. So I spent the 2 years for the alcohol and substance abuse counseling degree. That was 2 full years, and that was grueling schooling. I have to say that's very grueling. You want to learn how to do therapy, go there, and they there's no big shots in those classrooms. I could tell you that. So you learn group therapy. There's so much you learn there. So I wanted to have that in my toolbox. I wanted to have the mental health. I wanted to have the addiction counseling so I could understand that field. And I wanted to have the hypnosis so I could understand relaxation, EMDR. There's so many different facets to everything, but there's also foundational stuff, anyone else giving us questions? Oh, wow. I never moved this thing. That's why. Okay.
Does someone want to talk about their day in the life as a therapist?
Okay. So Daniel,
yeah, sure.
What's a day in your life?
So, typical day in the life, especially, and I'm going to speak from the frame of somebody, who's currently working in private practice. So, even just thinking about today, I could even just kind of go through that. So today, I have, people on my caseload who I've been seeing for a little while, who I have regular, once a week recurring 45-minute sessions with. And I have them on my schedule. I come into the office and they come in and meet with me, and I'm working through many, many different issues throughout the day. It's not limited to one specific thing. And I'm also working with different populations throughout the day too. So I might be meeting with a child client, and then I might be meeting with a couple. And then I might be meeting with an individual who's in college or an individual who is much older and retired. and everyone's at different kind of phases and places in their life and dealing with different kind of issues. And throughout all of that, it's my job to be consistent in terms of things that we've spoken about, like my active listening skills. I have to be able to also differentiate myself from a lot of the things that are going on in sessions. So talking a little bit more in terms of the actual like day in the life sort of a thing. It's good for anyone as, a therapist, whether it's, mental health counselor or social worker, to have good boundaries with yourself, ways of decompressing in between sessions, whether that's stepping outside for a breath of fresh air, whether that's maybe jotting down some even personal notes to myself about how I'm feeling about a particular session that's apart from an actual process or therapy note that I would be writing. When you're starting out, you have a supervisor who you could speak to as well. And then there are things that happen throughout the day that we don't expect, right? Like people you have to deal with, maybe things that you don't think about right now, which might be dealing with the very human side of the job. Somebody has an emergency, you're dealing with things like cancellation rescheduling policies, right? And you're talking about people's livelihoods and, what insurance covers, what it doesn't, and then, people having to navigate these different challenges with their life. And you also have to be able to sit there and have a very flexible, I feel, this is my experience, a very flexible schedule where you're, able to be there for people when they need you. But also, you also want to be able to engage in the right amount of self-care and say, okay, when I end my work day, this is when I end my work day, unless there are emergencies. So I think, that really talks about like patient boundaries too, in
No,
terms
that-
of setting appropriate
that's
boundaries.
that's covering a pretty good territory too, what you're saying. And of course, each therapist is different. And for family counseling, what we do is we allow our therapists, probably the only practice that does this. We allow them to pick the preferences that they like to work with and feel that they're skilled to work with. That's very important. You cannot see every single person, every disorder, every genre, everything in the world. So you isolate and you start specializing in a few things. So some people are couple counselors. So they say, I'll work with couples and I'll work with kids 12 and up. Well, I'll work with this. So if somebody works somewhere else and they're just giving you kids, but you don't really work with kids, or it's not the thing that you find enjoyable to yourself, then it's not going to have the right counseling. They're not going to have the right pathway. And that's what we care about, the outcomes of these patients. So we want family counseling therapists to see the people that they feel they're qualified, they like working with, and that's going to give a very good pathway for these people in therapy. And I see here you have a lot of people asking about what are the internship requirements for LMHC. Did you want us to answer those, Juliet, those questions?
I think we'll get into that, but I had a question. It was that, do therapists even see patients in person anymore, or have we completely shifted to now Zoom therapy?
Okay, that's a great question. And I'll let you know this. We have 5 locations. And what we did was we did not get rid of our locations during the pandemic. A lot of therapists got rid of the location and went full telehealth. The public was enjoying telehealth, right? Especially moms, right? With kids, it made it easier. They didn't have to drive. Now it reversed. Now more people are looking for in-office therapy than they are for telehealth. So they want to come in. All of our 5 locations are pretty packed, right, Judy? They're pretty filled up with therapists and patients. So believe it or not, we have room for telehealth. It was reversed. We had hardly anyone in the office. So that's a good question. Yes, a lot of people, and we're finding a lot of younger people. And this is, I think this is such a myth on younger people. They want to think that they don't want to do person to person. They do. We have a lot of younger people coming in. I'm talking from 10 years old, 15, 30, 20, 18, 19. They ask to come in. They want to sit across from someone and they want to see them and feel them. So don't buy into they want to text and they want to sit behind their computers that this media is putting out there. They love coming in and especially when a younger person chooses therapy, they mean it. Because, the other way it's the mom or someone driving them go there. But when they call and they say, I need therapy, it doesn't matter if it's a breakup. It doesn't matter if it's got to do with pressures of school. So good question, Julia. Yes, a lot of people come in person now.
Great, thank you. And then
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Q&A function that we have on the Zoom. If you guys want to ask questions and don't want it to get lost in the chat, you could just put in the Q&A section. But someone said that they want to be a therapist, but they were wondering what you guys thought was the best way to de-stress.
Well, it depends what's their de-stressor? I mean, do they like I happen to like classical music. I like Mozart, right? So I like classical music. Baroque music and classical is one of the best because it goes by your heart rate. So Baroque classical music actually will calm your heart, and it's about 72 beats per minute. So that's one of the only classicals. All the other classical music, believe it or not, pumps you up, stimulates you. Not that I need it, right, Connor? Boy, do I need that. So yeah, so what they could do is I like when people take a walk, take a 5-minute walk in the middle of the day. I like that they sit down in a chair and they put, whether it's the Calm app or some kind of app that gives them relaxation for 5 minutes. You don't need more than that. Just close your eyes 5 minutes, put the computer, put the phone down, 5 minutes. It'll be there 5 minutes from now. Trust me, and start to calm your mind down. Watch funny comedic movies. I mean, it's hard to get people to do that. They want to be on the internet and all this other stuff that's out there. Get something that you would never normally watch and start to snap your brain into different thinking. I like to think of myself as a therapist. I told my patients, I'm the jackhammer of the brain. See, I want to jackhammer. I got to loosen it up so that because they're stuck thinking, they're stinking thinking in there. So yes, there's a lot of ways you can relax yourself, and it's not going to the bar and having a drink. Okay, that's later. But when you want to relax yourself with relaxation, what do you enjoy? Reading, anything that you feel you enjoy. And here's the phrase that pays. You're sitting with Juliet and you're a good friend of hers. You go, wow, I should read. I used to love reading and I don't do that any longer. Bingo. You just found the thing that you should start doing. That's where your passions, most people gave up their passions. Get your passion back. My book is all about passion. I'm a passionate guy, not just being Italian, but you can show me a Poland Spring water. Anybody knows me? All of a sudden it becomes the biggest thing you ever saw in your life. Poland Spring, right? So get excited, get passionate about life. And if you're not in relationships that give you passion, I'm telling you, run. You need to have excitement in your life. You have to something that you look forward to doing and being there, and not do the same thing every day. That's actually just definition of insanity, isn't it, Daniel? Looking for a different outcome. Does that answer that question, Juliet? Okay.
Yes, I think that they think their answer is question. I mean, their question is answered. But
Okay.
someone else wanted to know the good programs in New York for obtaining an LMHC. If you
Well,
had anything on
Listen, in LMHC now, they have schools that are called K-CREP. Okay, that's a certification from the state. Okay, now there's K-CREP schools all over the country. And then there are schools that aren't K-CREP, and you still get 60 credits. I mean, you have to do 60 credits for a master's program. So mental health, so for example, CW Post, they have a phenomenal program. Adelphi has a great program. Doesn't Hunter have it? Hunter has, right? Yeah, Hunter has a good program as well for licensed mental health. So it's I have to tell you, I was never bored in one class in the master's program for mental health. I don't know about you guys. Were you guys ever bored in it when you were going to school?
No, not even during the pandemic.
Yeah, because we had actually gone for grad school when COVID had started, so that added some fun.
Right, to it. But
Yeah.
I was never bored. I'm not the student. If you want to get out of the class, I'm not the person to be in the class with, because I feel this way. I think of school like a fine restaurant. So if I spent $100 for the steak and it was an expensive place, I'm not going to be there for 15 minutes. I'm going to be there. I'm going to get all the juice out of that, the focus. When they give me that bill, I want to know I got the max out of what they offered me. So when I went to school, I said for thousands of dollars that I was spending to be there, and I wanted to be there. I asked the question with 5 minutes left in the class. It didn't matter. I wanted to get everything I could out of the professors, and I wanted to get the best of everything. And I'm a good question asker, and you could tell I'm happy to speak. So when I was in the class, I did that because why? Because the end result is I'm going to be sitting across from some person coming for counseling, and I think they're going to want the person across from them who asked all the questions. And at least I knew as much as I could possibly fill up into this mind of mine and get all the different things from these professors, whether you like them or not. They're full of information that I wasn't. So I found out every possible angle, every possible thing I could. And all my friends, because I thought I was the cool guy, right? But when my hand went up, no more cool guy. But I was right there because I wanted to know. So if you're in these classes, you're going to school, whatever you're going for, Don't run out, because once you're out of the school, you can't get that back. So hopefully that answers your question, but there's many schools. You can email us as well, right, Julia? If they want, they could also email us for any information you want. We have a whole team. We have clinical supervisors, we have Daniel, Connor, loads of people that I think can answer a lot of questions for you.
Ron, just to very quickly add on to what you're saying, I completely agree with what Ron's saying. It's really what you put into the programs. It's not necessarily where you go, it's what you put into it and what you actually choose to take away from it. And that could be through classes, it could be through your internship experiences, which I know people also had some questions about. But something important to know, and I think something I didn't know before going into the program, is you are not leaving these places with your license in mental health counseling or with your license in clinical social work. You still have to continue and do supervised hours in your actual job once you graduate from these programs. So just know that as well.
And
And-
someone just asked.
And take that test. Don't forget about adding about the test.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do really have to study for that test too.
Well, yeah, I mean, the schooling is grueling in reality, because like you said, it's not just sitting in the classroom. It's being able to recognize that this stuff is going to be utilized down the road. Like Connor said, this tool EMDR is in his bag. Everyone who comes in, he's not sitting there going, oh, I love EMDR, so I'm going to give it to everybody. No, his job is to diagnose the person coming in, do they need it? And I want you to know this, whether you're a psychiatrist, the PhD psychologist, the forensic, whatever title you have, any kind of psych is more of an art than a science. Trust me, you're dealing with human beings. You go to the medical doctor, you broke your arm. I say 100% all medical doctors know the arm's broken and can fix it. But depends on their personality, right? Do you like them a little better than the other guy? But it's like a template to the doctors. Most of my friends are doctors. When you go for counseling, it's an art. You're sitting there, you're talking, that person across from you doesn't have a template. They're using their skills plus what they've heard, what they don't heard. And now they've got to take the personal out of it. And that's the hardest. You got to strip your personal out, and you got to be present for that person that's sitting across from you. I have a phrase. It's my phrase. You use it if you want. When you're in private practice, I like to say you are a professional friend to the person. You're not there to therapy every session in a way of, we got to cure them of something. These are regular, everyday people coming in. Their daughter was doing this. Their son's smoking pot. This one's doing that. The mother's panicking. You're there to do counseling on so many different things that to you may not even be major, but to this person across from you, it's life or death to them. And now your job now is to make them feel comfortable. So when they leave, they go, Ron's a great guy. He's like a good friend of mine. I love that guy. I know how to maintain the boundary, even though they said that to me. So I take the fear out of being across from a patient to all the people who work for me, and want them to be there and feel and be themselves 100%. But we're not there to push our belief systems on anyone. We're there to take what they're saying and help them to process through. So I'm a menu guy. And if we had more time, one day I come back, I'll teach you how to do the menu, because you can't tell somebody what to do or how to live, but I create menus for them. You can do this, you can do this, or you can take pieces of it, but now we have to go through what you would like. And everyone is different. So I'm a lot different type of therapist than most. I like to shake the ground up a little bit, but you got to have fun. You got to get people come in and loosen them up. Hope that helps a little bit. Hey, let me give you one quick one. There's something called door knobbing. Now, this you're going to get later on. Hopefully, somebody will show you that. I call it's door knobbing. It means the patient sitting there went through all this whole thing, 45 minutes. They're about to leave. They hand you the money. And as they're leaving, they grab the door and they go, oh, by the way, my mother died the other day. Now, what do? You got another patient waiting. So you have to learn, when you're in private practice, you control that room. This isn't like you walking in with the doctor, like I said. You got to make sure that these people are coming in and they're speaking about what they need to. So I always, 15 minutes before any session was over, and I let my patients know that, I said, I'm going to ask you this question every session, 15 minutes prior. Did anything happen that we're going to need to talk about? And I don't need you walking out the door and going, oh, by the way, Ron, And they go, oh, no, okay. And it got them in understanding that, because I want to know this stuff, right? Could you have them walk out, Dan O'Connor? Could you have them walk out, Juliet, if they said, oh, my mother just died and they're leaving? No. And you got
But
got
yeah,
people
I
waiting.
do have to hop off. I have to go into a session now, but I just sent over my email. So if there are any questions, you guys can send that over. But it was great speaking with everyone.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Connor. We
Not a
really
problem.
appreciate it. Yes,
Thank you,
we really
Connor.
appreciate it.
No
Yes.
Bye, Connor.
problem. Bye.
Hopefully that helps. That helps you guys a little bit. Someone else was asking us a question here I saw that was pretty interesting. All right, I'll find it.
Ron,
Again,
Ron, could you touch on what it was like for you opening your private practice? Like, what are some of the challenges you face constantly? You talk about like the insurance companies, like the challenges that you face, but also like the process that it has been for you to open family and personal counseling.
okay, to get in your own practice after you're licensed and you did all that stuff and you feel you're trained and everything else, lots to do. So now, if you're on your own, you need to either do your own billing. You have to get software. So you have to have software on your computer that's like a template that a lot of I guess independents use. It's not always perfect, but you need to do billing. So somebody comes in, you need to make sure they have the right insurance. You need to qualify that. You have to make sure that you're going to be paid, and on top of all that, you got to make sure they didn't lose their insurance while they're coming to you, because they could be coming 4 or 5 weeks in, and now they don't have that insurance any longer. You didn't know about it. They forgot to tell you. And now you got to somehow bill them for that. It may sound simple what I'm saying to you. It's not. That's a major thing to a lot of patients that come in, is the payment, how the payment's done. We're one of the few practices that takes insurance. A lot of practices won't take it. I do, because I feel there's a lot of single moms, believe it or not, out there that say, I work, I have insurance, but nobody takes it. So, we need people to get counseling. That's what we're here for. It's, again, not about just our pocket. So that's one area. Then you need to, when you're practicing now, how are you going to be sitting in a room with a patient, doors closed, and your phone rings and somebody's calling you to book a session, but you can't get to it. So by the time you get to that call, they may have called 5 or 7 other people. And now when you call them back, there's like, tag. And they go, oh no, I got someone already. So now hard to get to them. What do you do when a patient tells you, hey, I can't really afford therapy, but I want to come anyway, my money's a little low, this and that. And now they decide last minute not to show up for the session. Well, you're not going to be paid. So now you have a 48-hour, 24-hour notice. They don't give you that. They have to pay you. How do you ask the patient now? How do you become the business person and say, oh, you know what, Dan, you have to give me $100 for that session last week that you weren't here. And you go, but Ron, I don't have a lot of money. I mean, something came up, but if I don't pay Dan, no, Dan has no money. So that's where boundaries come in. You really have to learn stiff boundaries when you open up a practice. Then you need a billing. So you hire a billing service. That's another thing that you would hire. And now you have to trust that the billing service is billing your patients correctly and the monies that come. There's so much to it, and I can't give you all of it, believe it or not, here, because I don't want to scare anybody out of being in business, because I think it's the best thing in the world.
And
But
your
people-
own insurance, Ron.
And your own insurance. Oh, I would, yeah. You have to have your own insurance on top of it for malpractice. And we as a practice, forget it. I mean, you guys don't even want to know what I go through every day. But we have 11 administrators, we have therapists, we have legal, accounting, pension plans. We have a lot of stuff that we offer our therapists as well. So when they work with us, you make a little bit less than you would make on your own. And I mean a little bit less, because if they spent the hours even booking the patients, would be at least 8-9 hours a week, booking them, making sure they're in the book, making sure the billing's correctly. So there's so much stuff involved. So working for us, we hope they make a very good living. I think, right, Dan? Not bad, right? Everybody does pretty good. As
No,
we do
definitely
better.
not bad.
Yeah, and we increase them. We take care of our therapists correctly, but we hand pick our therapists. No one comes in. There's 3 interviews before they come in. We're not a mess. Just come in and take a therapist, put them in a chair, bill it. We don't do that. We care about the patients and our reputation. So, but if you have questions about it, as you guys are growing, could be a year from now, whatever. You have our email, you could email us, and Judy will make sure somebody gives you an answer back on something. And no charge from us for the questions. You could call, you could give us an email. Just say Juliet sent you. That's all. All right. Do you have any other questions that you feel?
These slides are just examples of some tracks that we made last year of things you could do in each kind of year to make sure you're on track to go to grad programs. but I don't know if anyone wants to speak on, you know, what your experience was like and what courses you prepared yourself for in college for grad school. If anyone wants to touch on that.
Well, I mean, I see you have a lot of people, you know, they have, they're working on the psych. That's their thing, right? Psychology. They want to get a degree in psychology. That's what they're saying on here, Juliet? A lot of people?
Oh yeah, I'm sure most of the people in here are psychology majors.
Yeah, so you could be, see, like Toby is a health psychology major. Um, let's see something. I'm really curious about, oh, sex therapy. Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, sex therapy. See, there's so many different sections, I believe, of counseling that you can do. But say you wanted to, you know, and that's a good one with the sex therapy. If you're a couple counselor, that does come into play quite a bit. But knowing it is something that you need to learn. See, people think they can just do it. You can't just read about that. You need to know. There's so many different facets to doing that. Did you ever utilize that at all in your sessions, Dan?
Oh, absolutely. Especially with couples. And again, you know, that's not something that I'm specifically trained in, but it is one of those areas that you certainly you have to be comfortable, especially with yourself, to even open up, you know, those kind of conversations with people too, because sometimes a couple is sitting right in front of you and they're dancing around the issue of intimacy and sex, and you sometimes have to be the person to put those into words and say, okay, well, are we dealing with issues in this area? And oftentimes, if you're thinking it, they're feeling it.
100%. Yes. And it just, and when it comes to that, when I worked with a lot of couples, you know, who felt they were deprived, you know, where you have to understand the male side of it, right? Where the male is more like, you know, physical, and that's how he feels validated. And the woman, a lot of times it's more emotion, you know, and when you wake up in the morning, we already started our love affair, you know, being nice and sweet and kind. And the guy has to understand that, you know, a lot of guys don't know that part, you know, in the relationship. So that's like a little thing, but there's so many other things that come into play. And then somebody feels like, oh boy, you pay more attention to the kids. I mean, there's couples have children. The husband all of a sudden, or the father, feels like the kids are getting more attention, and he feels like he's left out. Meanwhile, she's not really trying to give more attention to the kid. She's just doing her job. So, you know, that's a great question. But you can become a sex therapist. I mean, that is a, you know, that is a discipline you can be if you wanted to be. I see also you have people here that are saying, you know, they're going to be a psych major going into social work. So ask yourself the question, you know, if you want to speak to someone in our office that's mental health, you can find out more about somebody who's working it already anytime you'd like. Where social work, ask them too, what does that entail? When I become a social worker, you know, how would I be as a talk therapist, one-on-one, doing that kind of counseling? I'd have to know from each one of you, what's the end result you're looking to get to, and how did you hear about that? What made you come up to that? You know, what got you to say, I want to be this? You know, that's a big thing.
I like to think when somebody asks me the question, because I do speak with a lot of candidates, and they will say to me, you know, what's the difference between social work and mental health counseling? I like to say that social work is about your relationship with society. How are you integrating in society? How can society help you? Mental health counseling is the relationship you have with yourself.
Yeah, good one.
So, just my
That's
2
good. Yeah.
cents.
Yeah, we get a lot of candidates. We have a lot of people apply to work for family counseling. We probably only bring in 10%. Okay, so we're very picky on you know, what their goals are too. And we don't want to be a stepping stone. We want to be a career. We are a career office for people. This is a career. We have people with us 14 years working for us with no issues, you know. So we have a very low, right, Judy? I'd say we have a very low rate of people coming and going. It's pretty much they stick here. You know, it's kind of fun, and they get a lot of experience. And we're the only ones, I believe, have clinical supervisors supervising the limited permits and the people who are licensed. Hopefully that helps. You know, if I were a student listening to me, you know, I would say some of the answers are a little vague. It seems a little, wow, that seems like a tough field to get into, or, oh, it seems might be fun. Don't go by me with all of that. Go by you. I want to give you information to get you stimulated. I want you to find out on your own. I don't want me to be the word. I want to stimulate you to get answers and come back to us and say, hey, Ron, you know what I found out? This. I like learning. So I'll learn from a 5-year-old to somebody who's 90. So if you learn something you think we could benefit, email us with that information.
Does someone want to touch on what graduate school looks like, the internship, the practicum, what you will be doing in graduate school, some of the things you need to accomplish or will accomplish?
Yeah, Daniel.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to talk about that. So, and I'm very very familiar with the process and actually remember that whole part of it very, very well. So I know it is a little bit different at each university, but the general guidelines for the state are still the same. So what I had to do was at the start of my second year, which started in summer, and then there was a fall semester and a winter semester. During the summer semester, we were doing our practicum, which was 100 hours at an internship site that we chose. We were given several different sites that we could potentially interview with or might have interest in. It was on us to reach out to them and contact them, send them resumes, make a good first impression, and then choose one of those sites to have an internship at. And then what you do is you do throughout the last 2 semesters of your mental health counseling program, you do 1,000 supervised hours at that location. However, if things happen, you need to switch locations. That is a possibility as well. So, and your school will get into all of that. But supervised, what that means 2 things. It means you're supervised by somebody who works at your university. For me, that was the director of our program. It could be any of the professors who you're working with in the mental health counseling program. And then you also have a supervisor on site at your internship site. So if I were doing my internship at Ron's practice, that would probably be one of the clinical supervisors who Ron was just mentioning. And you would meet with them once a week for hopefully an hour, at least 45 minutes, and get some feedback on the cases that you're working on. And then you also learn how to write therapy notes and process notes in your education. So your education really, you have to work and manage in between your education with graduate school and your internship site to get the most out of it. And then I'll just briefly say post-graduation, you do an additional 3,000 hours to work towards your license. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. You have to do an additional 3,000 supervised hours. So like, let's say I was doing my internship at Ron's practice and then Ron decides he wants to hire me, then I would do another 3,000 hours under a clinical supervisor at that location. And then you take your licensing test and, hopefully you pass on your first try. And then you give the state several months to process your paperwork and then you get your license.
Yeah, it's almost like, honestly, it's almost 9 years by the time you get 8 to 9 years before you get your full license. But difference what we do, right there, and you see this, if you're a limited permit with us, you get paid. You're not a copy, you're not doing copies for us, you're not billing for us, you're not going out getting my shirts from the cleaners. You're there learning counseling. You're there with patients and you're supervised. And we have meetings to help you with all different areas. And so many people come in thinking they're going to do this. And after they're working with us, they go, wait a minute, that's not for me. I like this. And now we will train them in it. So we're like another level up to train them with our supervisors. So now you don't get that anywhere. So if you decide, well, I don't want to work with children now, it's not my thing, but I like to work with couples. Well, where are you going to go? We're going to show you how to work with couples. We're going to guide you. We're going to supervise it. We're there for you. We don't just let anybody wander in the woods. I put a lot of money and a lot of time into every single person there, not because of you, but because of the person who's sitting across from you. I need them. They're coming in because they need counseling. They need somebody to give them direction and get them in the right spot. And that's what we're there for. So hopefully we groom the therapist, being quality therapists coming in so that they can turn around and they can take care of these people the correct way, And transference, you got to be careful when you're in counseling, transferring other people's feelings. You do that now, right? In school. Oh, I can't believe what Mary said. Oh my God. Well, that's transference. If you didn't have transference, you wouldn't matter what Mary said. So when you start worrying about what other people say and you're in counseling, as somebody comes in, they went through something major and you pull that all in, you're human, you're going to feel some of it. But if you're shot for them for the day. So you have to learn how you're there again for that person, you know, and having all the tools in your tool bag, I think is the most important. Having all these different things. Having, you know, when I went to school, you know, they used to give you the PhD was piled higher and deeper, right? So all you're getting is the same thing, just more and more and more. And that would have been easy for me as an author. That's an easy thing to do. Don't need it. I wanted to be what this was so I could have all the variations and deal with people. But if you want to be a social worker, it's up to you guys. I like, to me, if you're going to be a cross, you're going to do one-on-one therapy. You want to be in the therapy, mental health business. I would say even psychiatrists pretty much have a lot of our courses if they're doing that kind of thing. If they're sitting there doing psychotherapy. So even psychologists. Now, if you want to be clinical psychologists, that's a whole different world, right? But I've had a lot of people started out like that. Judy knows what I'm talking about. They wound up coming to us and they had to get different credits again so they could do mental health. So I always say, get the mental health as your base and then go from that point, you know? Juliet?
Having the
Oh.
mental health degree, just wanted to work off of that. Having the mental health degree always gives you that opportunity, and to get the license gives you the opportunity to have that job, hang out a shingle, and see patients within New York State. So it's always like that foundation, and then you can continue on to do the more clinical work. But you always have, you know, they can't take that license away from you once you work hard to get it.
Yeah. But I will say this, at the end of the day, after you do a whole day of therapy work with people, you always feel good. I'm telling you, you always feel terrific because somebody was helped. Doesn't mean all 10 patients ran out of this and oh, Connor's the best, Danny's the best, you know, they're definitely not saying Ron Villano's the best, everybody, right? You know, so, but the point is you helped somebody. I guarantee it, and you're gonna feel like, wow, I feel terrific that I was able to help this person. And they're gonna come to you and say, thanks to you, my marriage is better. Thanks to you, my child is not cutting themselves. Thanks to you, you know, my son isn't doing drugs any longer, or this is happening, or I see it differently. I'm parenting way better. I never thought I would. You know, it's just, it's amazing, really. It's amazing field.
Sometimes you don't even know when you're helping somebody too, because I've had the experiences that Ron's mentioning, and then I've also had experiences where, you know, maybe I go home and maybe I am feeling a little bit stuck or frustrated, but then I get a call from that parent, or that, you know, I see that person next week and they tell me something that actually really helped them. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's my own self-doubt voice coming out, right? That we have to keep in check as well.
Big time. Big time. Yep. Comes right into play.
So this next slide is just an LMHC checklist provided by the New York State website that I thought would be helpful to provide. So I can always go back to this, or I can send this later on, but I can't see you guys if you guys are holding up your phones or not, but I'll give you like 10 seconds or so to just scan this code if you want to check that out, but I can always go back to it. But the next slide, I believe, will be just Q&A. So there are some Q&A questions. I'll leave the QR code up. Then there are some questions like in the Q&A section, but if you guys want to add to that right now, the remainder of the session will really just be if you guys have any specific questions for the team about anything in particular. Someone asked, what are your thoughts on the best practices for adolescent counseling? Do you find it's very specific to the individual, or are there practices that have a positive impact across the board?
Wow, that's a big question. So you want to answer that one? Yeah. Good, Dan.
Well, by practices, I'm guessing we're talking about kind of like techniques or like ideology. Okay. Well, the approach that I usually take to adolescents, actually, is I usually start with humor, quite honestly, in a way to try to relate with them, because a lot of the time, maybe mom or dad is bringing them there and like they're at that like weird phase where maybe they're like 15, 16, or 17. They're like on the cusp of 18, on the cusp of, they know that they want to be able to make their own decisions. And, you know, we've all been that age as well. So you know, especially if they don't necessarily want to be there at first, I try to make it as kind of approachable and warm as I can and relatable, while also maintaining that professional boundary of also saying like, look, like, while I would love to sit here and joke around with you the whole time, like we are also here to do whatever the case may be, whether it's emotional processing or working on anger management. But even through that, you know, I try to make it more lighthearted if that's the approach that I think that that person is going to be receptive to. Not everybody is receptive to that kind of an approach, but
No.
with adolescents, and sometimes you get adolescents who come in and they know what they want to talk about and they know what's on their mind and they just go right into it. So I hope that that answers that question at least somewhat.
Well, I get some, when I got small kids, say 5 years old, 6 years old, would come in. What I did was, because I like the feeling of freedom, so I would have them take my garbage pail, the little garbage pail in the room, and put it between the door. So the door is open, the width of the garbage pail, and the mom is sitting out there, but they're little guys. So you're not really breaking the confidentiality rule, okay? So they're talking, and I allow them, if they want to go out, they go out the door and come back in, whatever they want to do. As they're talking, if they feel like they want to go out, see mommy a second, come back in. And I have to tell you, I never had one kid do it, just knowing that they could do it and they felt free. What they would do is, as they're sitting there talking, you see them go by the door, like wave to the mother and come back in. So it made them feel not closed in room with a stranger, because I'm picturing, I'm a little kid. I don't care how nice I am or whatever. You know, they're put in there with somebody they don't know and they're looking at you. So I used to do that, and I used to get a lot out of them. And all I do is sometimes I throw a ball back and forth. We're gonna how many times we catch it and miss it, and when the ball fell, they would get it. So I never had to get off my chair then. So they would get the ball, right? So I would play ball with them, and I have to tell you, I got so much out of a kid. I said, oh yeah, you know, I used to have a friend of mine when I was 7. I say they're 6. I'd say 7. I'd move the age around. Yeah, my friend used to do this and that. I don't know if you ever had a friend say things like that. And they go, oh yeah, my friend Kurt, and they're talking. They don't have big things to settle, but they need to have the freedom. They're not feeling like that they heard. So kids need to be heard. And the parents need, again, I think Connor mentioned it, have to be careful that not the names they call them, but the names they say around them, because they're picking up everything and trying to define what that is. And that's how you create some negative thinking, you know? So, yeah, I'll tell you what, in counseling, in one in a nutshell, your job is to undo what society did and allow this person to start filling their mind's garage, their mind, with their stuff that they want in there, and take out everything they were taught. One of my chapters in my book talks about that, emptying the mind's garage. Empty the mind's garage, and now only put in what you choose to put in there, not what anybody else did. I don't care how wonderful, great it is. You could bring it in later, but just put stuff that you want. And a little quick analogy is, you take a garage. I'm a big Italian family. We'd empty the garage out. We'd clean it up. We sweep the garage with these big brooms my father had, and he'd put everything back in a different spot. So what did we really do? We took everything out and swept the floor. What we should be doing is taking stuff out and literally throwing it out. Don't give it away, because you're going to put it back in the garage in a bag. And it's going to sit there again for 2 months. Just take it, throw it away, and it's very cathartic. And then put new stuff in your head. Very difficult for people to do. So my last thing I'm going to tell you to do, any one of you out there, have your dorms, your rooms, whatever. Any of you are bed makers, like you make your bed, you put the little pillows on, everything every day, whatever's going on, even if it's just you, you're going to make the bed. I want you guys for 1 week, watch this task. 1 whole week, wake up in the morning and don't make your bed for 1 week. Now, sounds easy, but 7 full days. You can say, well, that don't make sense. What we want to do is create change. Get away from habit. And the guys and the people who don't make their beds, you make your bed for 1 whole week. And you tell me at the end of the week how you feel in doing that. You're going to think it's very simple, and it's not going to, very few people who make their bed, Juliet, they're not going to mess their bed up. They're going to be making it tomorrow and say, I don't like what that guy said. The people who usually don't make the bed, they're more apt to make the bed. Isn't that funny? So just create change in your life. That's all. Do different things that you normally do. Hang around with some different people you normally don't. Get coffee in another shop where you never went to. Something different.
Do you know anything about the NYU LMHE program? Someone asked if it's favorable. They said that there's a lot of people that go to that program. Did you guys know anything about that program?
Again, like Dan said, I mean, I think if it's a K-CREP school, I would look to see if it's a K-CREP school, the credit to get that credit, accredited school that way. K-CREP is very important. So if NYU is a K-CREP school, I'm not sure. But if it is, yes. I mean, all the programs are excellent. I mean, if they have a master's program in mental health, I can assure you, SUNY or Westbury, where my daughter went, it's phenomenal. You go in, the same kids you start with, you follow through the whole course. You don't change classes, you don't change people, you just change classes with the same people for 2 years. So they have their own way of doing it. But in the end, it's all a template. It's all the same classes. And like Dan said, and I agree with him, it's what you put into it. So NYU has to be excellent. I mean, I don't see how that school cannot be excellent.
What did you guys get your masters in?
Where?
Or what did you get them in?
Masters in mental health.
Yeah, master's in mental health. I believe for myself, it was an MA.
Yeah, they have MA,
Yeah,
MS,
it's
yeah,
MA.
MA, Master of Arts, Master of Science. But in the end, it's a master's in mental health. But yeah, Masters of Arts. I mean,
It's either Masters of Science or Masters of
Yeah,
Arts,
Master
but the
of Arts.
bottom line is that it's either an MS or an MA in either mental health counseling or clinical mental health counseling. They are both one and the same, according to the New York State Department of Education, which is the licensing board for this career.
hey, we found out who the one who knows everything finally, huh? Dan.
Well, I guess when you are looking at schools, one thing I wish I had known when I was applying to graduate schools is to ask more specifically, okay, what are your internship requirements? You know, what is the structure of classes? How much freedom do I have to take electives in the schedule that you're providing me? And what kind of elective courses do you have? Do you offer a KSAC program with it where I can learn how to do substance abuse counseling? I didn't do that. But the school that I went to, Adelphi, did offer that, and you could take 3 extra credits and leave school with I think it's a KSAC certification. Maybe somebody else could speak on behalf of that, but
Yeah, you would probably leave with the KSAC-T, which means that you have
Yes.
to apply for your hours. You would have to be at an OMH or actually, no, you have to be at an OASIS facility in order to fulfill those hours, or another agency or facility. In this private practice, we are not able to give hours toward KSAC licensure, just licensed mental health counseling. I wanted to also add when you were now the question just went out of my mind. You were talking about programs and applying. Yes, the other important question to ask and to consider, some schools will allow you to do the master's program as an open enrollment, which means you can go part-time and fill your classes as you go. However, some schools are closed. So if you start in the fall, you have to stay with that cycle. If you need to leave in the spring, you have to wait until the following spring to re-enter the program. So that's just something to take a look at that. I believe Old Westbury runs that way from the experience that I've had from people who have come in from there. I know that Post LIU Post and LIU Brentwood are open enrollment. So if you take the courses, you take them in whichever order that you need if you're going full-time or part-time. Those are just the 2 examples that I have personal experience with. Dan, I don't know how was your program? Was it open, or were you closed? Did you form a
that's a
cohort?
good question. Yeah, we were closed. We were definitely closed.
So you had a cohort, right?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to explain what that relationship is like?
Sure. And then I'll just have to hop off because I do have a session at 6:15. You're talking about relationships within cohort?
Yeah. So you go through with a collection of students.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I went through with a collection of myself and 23 other students. So small classes we're talking about. At most, yeah, the classroom size was all of us in it. Oftentimes it was about half that classroom size, though, maybe 10 to 12 people. Like maybe when we did group counseling, it was split into 2 different sections taught by 2 different professors, and you had to choose, are you taking it at this time or the other time? And, so the cohort would kind of break up. But your cohort is and can be a really great resource for building early professional relationships, as well as forming study groups. And also, like, once you get into your careers too, you have those other people to network with if where you're working allows for that, or also just to hear other life experiences. And at the same time, you also just want to be mindful of like where everybody is in that process too, because where you are in the process of getting your license. Like there was somebody in my cohort who was over the age of 60 and already had a master's and a career in something else, and was coming in and wanted to start fresh. And getting to know him and learning his perspective was so fascinating. So always keep an open mind about who you're going to meet in your cohort as well, because they could really teach you a lot.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, but that's what you're saying. There's so many variations of things, and you could create. I just think the mental health field is phenomenal. I mean, but again, don't go in it to be a millionaire. Go in it, you want to help people, and then the money will follow you. But you can make a very good living doing it. I know you have to go.
I was just about to
Dan.
say I have to get going, but thank you guys so much for having me. And I did put my email in the chat. If anybody has any further questions or wants to talk more, I'd be more
Oh,
than
you were
happy
phenomenal.
to.
You're a delight. Thank
So,
you very much.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
I'm so glad I could be here.
Good.
Thank you,
love
Dan.
it.
Have a good night.
Yes. And want everyone to know, I see Juliet has my book up there, The Zing. I think you guys would like The Zing. We're offering you, right, Juliet, a free ebook, and she has a whole code. You could get the book at no charge for you guys. And that book took 10 years to write. And a very simple note is most people take something simple and make it complicated. I took something complicated and made it simple. So, but it's the only self-help book has no repetition and doesn't tell you how to think. It provokes you to think. So I think you get a lot of joy out of it, and it's written that you definitely would understand it, but you're gonna have to press apply in order to get the real meat out of it. So, but Juliet could tell you how to get it. So.
Yeah, and if anyone has any questions, I'm going to share my contact information also at the end. But someone did ask, do you get some clients with serious mental illness, or are they all just mild cases? I just wanted you to touch on talk therapy and what talk therapy is, and what family and personal counseling does with talk therapy.
Yeah, if we have our schedulers know if someone does call that they need a higher level of care, then what we do is refer out. So we'll refer out. So say, for example, if somebody's calls up and they have a major addiction, whether it's drugs, alcohol, whatever, we will not take that. They need a higher level of care. They need an agency setting because they're made for that. So we won't just take anything just to take it. And yeah, no. So we take, it's not simple cases, but it's not the drug and alcohol, or say someone's going through a marital thing and they need court papers and they want us to write up stuff for the court. That's getting into the triangle of their lives. So we don't do any of that stuff either, but we're there to help somebody going through a divorce or help the families, exit out of the marriages or relationships, like things like that. But
What
hope
is
that
talk
answers it for you.
therapy? If you could, what is talk therapy?
Talk therapy is someone comes in and what they want to do is they want to talk out the issues that's going on in their lives. So most people are talking constantly. They're telling their friends their business. Juliet might be a good therapist for two of her friends, who knows, right? Everybody's a therapist to someone. But what's happening is they're sharing the 95% of what's going on in their lives, and they're repeatedly doing it with multiple people, they're looking for somebody to give them an answer for them to do something they don't want to do, but they pretty much take you in a circle. So they'll talk to Juliet, they'll talk to me, they'll talk to Judy, they'll talk to Frank. And then 2 weeks later, all that talking, did you do it? No, they're still doing the same thing. So coming to counseling, we want to get to the 5% that they're not talking about, the real secret, the real stuff inside. Because we say you're as sick as your secrets. So the secrets you're holding in, that's the stuff we want to get to. So through talk therapy and the therapist understanding, knowing how to diagnose and how to lead somebody and help them to get this stuff out, that's what we're there for. Is for them to get it out, and then for them to make the choice that they want to change it. And because they want to change it, now we give them the tools to do that. Right? So as a therapist, you know what's going on with the person and you know what they need sometimes, but you cannot say that. You have to allow them to come to that conclusion. And then we give them the tools to do the work, and we guide them. I hate to say this, but I think of myself more as a guidance counselor than anything else. So you're really guiding and counseling at the same time. Does that answer that?
Definitely. Yes.
Oh, thank God. Okay, want to make sure.
Someone asked about some kind of certification or license to start counseling related work after your bachelor's so that you can gain experience before graduate school. They said they've heard of something like that, but they forgot the name of it. And then they posted ABBA, which I'm not sure. I'm not sure if you guys know of anything.
Judy?
I'm not certain exactly what the certification is. It is used. It is I believe, a program that you can get at the bachelor's level, primarily for the treatment of autism and autism disorders. It's a good introduction to moving into mental health counseling, but not a requirement to get licensure, just good experience to have.
And the person who asked, I think it's hard for me to say, Astoy, is that the person's name? Julia Asto?
I'm not
Um,
sure what you're looking at. Oh,
yeah,
I
that's
see.
that.
Counseling.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's the question. Yeah, I would say you're correct. Therapy and counseling, yes, I do feel they're the same. I really do. Some people like to say talk therapy, counseling, but it's all in the same thing. You know, without the talk, you have no counseling. Without the counseling, the talk doesn't mean anything. Okay, did that answer their question? What Judy said, Juliet?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to seek it out and find it out more. I'm not overly familiar with that. I know, me, the licensing is always the extreme level.
I think also the reason that we say a lot in our practice that we do talk therapy is just to make sure that the patient coming in understands that we do not do medication management. That is done
Right.
by another licensed professional. We can do it in conjunction with another licensed professional, but if someone is looking just for the medication management, that we wouldn't be the place to start for that. To talk to them once they are on that medication in conjunction with a doctor or a psychiatrist who is managing that medication, that would be a great partnership, because mental health medications are only as good as the talk therapy is going to uncover.
Right.
Yeah, and just to add, I do know, because I just learned in class, that talk therapy is separate from CBT, which is separate from DBT and psychodynamic therapy. There's different types of therapy that you can give your patient, if that wasn't clear, because talk therapy is its own thing as compared to like CBT.
Yeah, there's so many different things. I mean, there's DBT, there's also psychodrama. I took psychodrama. That's a whole nother thing that's very intense. But the basic really is the talk therapy. You get into those other areas, it's not just a quick hit and miss. You got to work with people. You bring out deep emotions on a 1-day seminar, a 2-day seminar. You better be prepared for those emotions coming out, that somebody didn't have a relationship with their father or mother, and all of a sudden you're bringing out stuff that's heavy. So you can't just drop them. Sometimes people do that and they regret they did it, because it takes time. You have to allow people to, you don't want to pop a balloon. You want to valve. You want to let it come out slowly. But yep, you're right, Juliet. There's all different ways of doing it.
And someone asked, what are the difficulties with working with different age groups, like kids or teens, young adults to adults, and then older people?
Oh, there's a lot to it. First off, older people feel like they're already done. What do they need it for? Right? They don't need it. They're already done. They don't need it. Younger people, and when you say younger people, it could be ages from, say, 14 up, right, to 25. Just use that for now. Sometimes come in and they feel like they know already, and their friends know. So you got to get them to understand, you're coming here because you want help. If you're not coming because you want help, it's not going to work. And then, you have couples come in, the girlfriend, whatever, wife, whatever, or husband, they wanted you to help straighten their partner out. They want you to be their advocate. Like, we're partners. Ron and I are going to straighten out Tony here. Like, they come in with a motive. So your job is to make sure what everybody's coming in for, and that they understand we're not here for fun. We're here because you have a reason to be here, and we want to get you that goal. Very important to know that, because you don't want people coming to you. Like me, I don't want you coming to me for 6 months and nothing happens. I look like a lousy therapist. Everybody go, you've been going to that guy for 6 months and no change? Ronnie Villano doesn't do that. So I need you to come so we could get some work done, but we do it the way it's supposed to be, nice and easy, the right way, But yeah, oh yeah, it's way different. A child is different. Somebody who specializes working with children, way different than someone who specializes working with, say, the geriatric group, right? They work with that group. So there's so many different variations in counseling that we have it, though. We have over 40 therapists, preferences. If you saw our preference list, right, Judy? It covers so many different areas.
But a lot of times in a level of practice such as ours, we're not dealing with severe and persistent mental health illness. A lot of times it's about just learning a little bit more about that issue or population. And you can read up and study And certainly in a group practice like ours, you can talk to everybody else who is there to give insights and continue your professional development. That's always, I think, a key factor in making sure that you're meeting the needs of the patients that are looking for your care.
Yeah, and helping people get unstuck. Most people is stuck. It's habitual their lives. They're running around, they have the same thing going every day. You know, that's the definition of insanity. The same relationships, the same this, the same that, and doing the same thing. You got to change. You got to kick it. You got to do something different. Stir the mind up. So maybe I should get a toupee. That would be different. I get a nice long hair toupee. Nah, I'm not going to do it. Okay. What else? Anything else?
Does anyone else have any last minute questions as we wrap up in the next 5 minutes? If anyone wants to drop them in chat or say them over the microphone. I'm just
That's
gonna,
a
I'm just
good
gonna
one.
put up this information. Yeah.
Lena, is it? Lena?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. What are the pros and cons of being and a little capsule for you is big difference. Being a solo, it's just you. There's no one to confide in. There's no one to really talk to unless you have friends outside of it. Don't forget, you're locked in a room. If you're seeing 10 patients, you're locked in a room for 8 hours. That's it. You in the room and the person. When you're in a group, you have all this other stuff. You have administrators you can talk to. You have other therapists to talk to. And if you have a couple, you're not sure what to do, you can speak to one of the couple counselors. Hey, I'm stuck here with a little bit of this or that. So it's a very big difference, I must say. I did both. I like the group feel personally.
And these are my emails. One's my school one, one's my personal one. Do you want to speak about how you're looking to hire master's students, things like that?
Yeah, good, Judy.
Sure. After you're done with your master's, we are looking for a resume that has a lot of rich experience, perhaps some private practice internships. That's helpful. But someone who has a background and a willingness to kind of jump in and learn as you go. You would have to, after you graduate, you would open up what's called a permit with NYSED, the New York State Department of Education, and then go through an interview process with us in order to be considered. So for me, when I am looking at a resume, not only am I looking at your practicum experience, I am also looking to see what other experience you have. Even if you've been a barista at Starbucks, it shows that you have a good work-life balance. You went to school and you were holding another job. So for me, personally, looking at emails, I like seeing the extra jobs to see where you've come from, the additional clubs that you might be in, and other ways that you participated in school. It shows, it goes to the well-roundedness of the candidate.
Yeah, and a big thing is, we're one of the few places, but you're limited permit. You're actually getting paid. You're treated like a therapist. You're making a living. I mean, you really can't beat it. You're getting a lot. You're getting a lot with it. But again, it takes a lot for us to take you in also. So, but we're there. I mean, if you want to ever apply, you can, and we're happy to. How do they apply with us, Judy? I guess Juliet has that. If they ever.
And I didn't mention it, but Ron is actually my boss. So when you're contacting me, it will get to him. It's not. Yeah, I am connected to Ron. So if you have any questions, you can go through me and it will get to him and I can connect you with the practice.
But you can also apply right through our website, familyandpersonalcounseling.com. And I believe it's just called job opportunities. You can apply through there.
Yeah. Yep.
But if no one else has any more questions, thank you guys so much for coming. And you can always contact me if you have any questions after this, or if you download the book and you read it, if you want to say something about that, you can definitely send this to us and Ron would love to see that, any comments that you have. And follow us on Instagram at Family and Personal Counseling as well.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you guys having us.
Look forward to hearing from you.
Yes.
You can see all the thank yous coming in the chat.
Yep.
Oh,
Very
yeah,
nice.
nice.
I'll
Very,
put
very
the link
nice.
for the book back up again because someone
We
says
had
they
some
don't see
clapping
it.
hands.
So
yeah.
let me just put this back up.
That was very nice. Good information. That was good. Well, I enjoyed it. And anyone, again, to get a hold of us, send an email, and we're there for them. All right. I'm going to leave everyone. And
Okay.
thank you, Juliet.
I am too. It's definitely been a great day, but a long day. So, well, Ron really stepped off.
Okay.
All right. We'll talk tomorrow.
Thank you.
All
Ro-
right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.